Legends, welcome back to another episode of the Ruck Infringement Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Joey, and this week it's another special guest interview. We have the one and only Ben Gardiner. Ben, how are you, mate?
I'm well, thank you. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
Mate, I am great. It is our pleasure. Now, for those that don't know you, do you want to let us know who you are, what you do, and give us a rundown?
Well, I'm a footy coach, so coach rugby league at the Penrith Panthers at the moment, which is an awesome job.
Oh yeah,
Really enjoying it there at the moment. I also was lucky enough just recently to take on the Toa Samoa men's team,
Yep.
so the international Samoa team. So that's been an awesome opportunity. That's happened pretty quickly over about the last 5 or 6 weeks. And that's following up from a number of other things in the past. Worked with the Kiwis for about 7 or 8 years.
Yep.
Coached at a number of different clubs before Penrith, Roosters, Rabbits, Sharks, West Tigers. Been around for a while, and got this great opportunity at the moment to work at the Panthers. So pretty happy with that. Hey.
Oh, mate, you would be, especially after the last 3-4 years. But let's jump straight into it. Now, a question I always ask our guests is usually who's your funniest teammate? But for you, I'm going to say, who is the funniest player that you've coached?
Yeah, there's been a few actually. As I said, I've been pretty lucky to work at a heap of different clubs. So take you back to South to start off with. I worked really closely with Luke Keary there.
Beautiful.
Yeah, he's a little smart ass. Hopefully that's all right. I can say that. But yeah,
Of course, mate. Of course.
Yeah, he's a really good guy as well. Great player, obviously, as everyone would know. But he's a cheeky little bugger. So he always kept me on my toes, which was really cool. And moved across to the Tigers not long after that, and a number of different guys there were pretty cheeky. So Dane Laurie was one of them. Obviously coming back to the Panthers now as well. So Dane and I were lucky enough to grow up in the same area. So he grew up in Maclean and Yamba, and I grew up in Yamba. So we had a lot of commonalities there. So which broke the ice early, and he got cheeky pretty early as well. So he's a funny guy. Probably out at Penrith, there's a number of them. You got guys like Spencer and Bizza. Really funny, cheeky fellas. Romy obviously sits in that category as well. Great banner, all in good humour as well. No one really steps too far over the line, which is nice. But even amongst the coaching staff, we have a fair bit of banter, and I think that's the best thing when you can have that fun and you can have those guys that make you laugh. It's pretty easy to turn up to work every day. So out at the Panthers, that's something that we sort of take in our stride. So everyone puts a bit of shit on each other and has a good laugh at each other, and that's just part of the culture, the fun, and the way that they go about things out there.
I love that, mate. That's the way it should be in rugby league and in life in general. Now, the next one we got, who is the strangest player? And no doubt there would have been some weird cats out there. Give us one.
There's been a number of strange players. Probably the biggest thing is not necessarily the strangest player, but just some of the superstitions along the way. You'd hear stories about guys that want to put their left sock on before their right sock, and there's a heap of guys in the NRL in different teams that I've coached that will refuse to go out of the shed unless they go out dead last. What I mean is that's all the time. That's not just running out for the game. That's for the warm up. That's for everything. So there's this guy that will just sort of sit back behind everyone, and everyone's sort of bustling along, getting their energy up, and we might just be going out to the warm up, and you see this guy over in the back of the room, and you're trying to wonder, what's he doing? He's actually waiting for every single person to go out in front of him. So there's been a couple of those guys throughout the years that I've coached it. They've also had some guys in the early years when I coached at the Roosters that would wear the same swimmers every week, and they wouldn't be washed. They would be exactly the same. They'd put them in their bag, they'd pull them out, they'd put them on, they'd go back in their bag, and then they'd come out the next week for the game. So Yeah, there's all sorts of weird shit that's going on
Yeah,
in the
mate.
NRL.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's great. I'm actually a Rooster fan myself, so I love hearing that. That is great.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. It's always a laugh too,
yeah,
you sort of sit back as a coach, or when you're on the staff and you're sort of watching this guy, and as it builds throughout the weeks, you sort of go, well, is he going to do that again? Like, is that real, or am I just seeing things here? So yeah, it's quite good. Keeps the fun alive, that's for sure.
oh, definitely, mate. Now, you spoke a bit about superstitions there. The next question I actually had for you was weirdest pre-game rituals or superstitions that you've seen.
Oh, yeah, there's a lot. Like you see a lot of the guys. Their pre-game ritual now is the meditation,
Mm,
which is cool. That's the game now. Like breathing and
yeah.
breathing exercises, clearing the mind, making sure that their mind's ready to go. But there's actually a number of guys that have strapping rituals,
Oh,
which
wow.
is quite funny. So like, there's the guy that, like, you come back in round one or even before round one into trial matches, and there's the guy that last year got his knee strapped, his shoulder strapped, his elbow strapped, and he got his wrist and thumb strapped. And anyway, he sort of forgets about it in the first game, and so he goes, he might get his knee strapped, because that's pretty prevalent, but he forgets about the rest of the stuff that needs to be done, and then it's like 5 minutes to the warm up, and he's like, "Shit, I haven't had my wrist strapped. Shit, I
Yeah,
haven't had
yeah.
my thumb strapped." So it becomes this big panic. There's plenty of those guys, the strapping rituals. But as I said, there's some guys that need to put their left boot on before their right boot. There's guys that need to have their left ankle strapped before their right ankle. Like, gets a little bit weird.
I've
Nuts,
heard a lot of the ones about sleeping in the sheds. A lot of the older players that I've chatted to have spoken about, like Craig Gower used to like
yeah,
to sleep in the sheds as well.
yeah. A lot of that's gone on in the past, probably
Yeah,
like more previously. That's probably when guys didn't sleep properly leading into the game and had
yeah,
big
yeah,
weeks.
yeah, exactly.
But these guys are getting plenty of sleep now.
Yeah,
But you'd probably be a bit worried if someone fell asleep in the shed these days. But as I said, there's lots of meditation and all that sort of stuff. But all sorts of weird things like that you
mm,
just wouldn't even be able to think about, like chewing gum, and like
yeah.
some guys will chew gum in the shed leading out to the game, chew gum in the warm up, but then not want to have it in the game. And it's like, well, why have you done it all that time? And then you put your mouth guard in and you're off and racing. So all sorts of funny things that go on with different guys. And it's all very individualistic as well. There's the guy that needs to get his ears strapped back because
Mm.
he's got cauliflower ears, and then he forgets to do it. And then all of a sudden they're out on the field ready for the kickoff, and he's going, "Oh shit, I forgot to have my ears taped back," and needs to get his ears taped back. So yeah, there's all sorts of things that go on, but you just wouldn't be surprised at anything, to be frank with you.
Yeah, not this day and age, that's for sure. Mate, what is the favourite game that you have coached in? Now, I know there'd be a whole ton with the Penrith Panthers, of course, but what's the favourite game you've coached in so far?
The obvious one is the most recent one with the
Yeah.
Panthers. Like, as a coach, the grand final just gone against Brisbane. It was just an epic game. Like,
Oh, incredible.
game, absolute game for the ages.
Yeah.
It was, obviously we looked like we were down and out, and then we were able to sort of bounce back into the game, and um, Ramey was doing his piece, and then Jack
Mm,
Cogger had to come on, and people were sort of thinking, "Oh, I wonder if they can do it." But then Jack and Nat's combination sort of stuck together, and yeah, off Nat went, and I thought that the two or the three of those guys worked really well to move the opposition around and create opportunities for us to win the game. So that's definitely one. Another epic one was last year's World Cup semi-final, New
mm.
Zealand Australia. So I was working with New Zealand for the World Cup, and yeah, that's one of the absolute best matches that I've been involved in. Super close. Obviously, the outcome was not the outcome that we were after
Yeah.
from the New Zealand point of view, but in terms of like top class matches and really good level of match, that's up there as well. And then probably from there, probably go back to when I worked at South in the 2014 Grand Final.
Oh, yeah.
The 2014 Grand Final is a different sort of game because we ended up winning that game quite convincingly in the end, but it was all about the community.
Yeah.
And the amount of time that the community had waited to win the grand final, and then that grand final is the record for the most people in the crowd in a match. So obviously heaps of South supporters, and on the back of that grand final, I've never seen so many people hang around at the game after the game and want to get pictures and see the players and talk to the players, and it just meant so much to the South Sydney community. That was an epic game for a different reason to the most recent one, but yeah, definitely one that I would treasure. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that, mate. That is awesome. Mate, are you enjoying international coaching?
Yeah. It was a whirlwind, to be frank with you.
Yeah.
So I was only appointed into the Samoan job, like most recently. That was about two weeks before the grand final.
Yeah, wow.
So that there's a little bit going on, just trying to work that out for a week or so. But you sort of wait until you get appointed into the role, and then when you get appointed into the role, you sort of go to work with it. So I was lucky enough that I had a few other guys that helped me out. I had a guy from the Dolphins who is the general manager or in that role up there, who worked for me as a footy manager. And
Yeah.
so between me and him, it was basically we just had to go for it and do as much as we could to make sure that the camp was organised. So when I say whirlwind, a lot happened really quickly. Into the grand final and after the grand final as well. Obviously, we had a week to get prepped to be in camp.
Yeah.
But that's one of the challenges of that type of role, and then obviously making sure that you've got the right players in the right positions. We had a few injuries and stuff like that that didn't help our cause for this campaign, but it's all about longevity with a team like this. So you only play 3 or 4 tests a year, so you really got to build the tests up over 3-4 years into a World Cup, so that you can get those guys. We had 13 debutants in the 2 matches that we played. So, you think about that. Next year, you might only have 2 debutants because if those guys go around again, and then you've got Jerome comes back in, and we've got some guys that we want to target to come and join the team as well. So all of a sudden, you start to build some momentum into the big tournament. The big tournament's obviously the World Cup. Not that like all Test matches matter, but at the end of the day, that's sort of what you're working towards. And from the Samoan point of view, that's what we're working towards. So. The great thing about it is New Zealand and Samoa are very different teams to coach. New Zealand, well established. They've obviously been a powerhouse in international rugby league for a period of time.
Yeah.
Samoa sort of worked their way to the top, played really well in the World Cup, but there's a lot to do around administration, coaching, high performance for that team, which was the challenge that I wanted to take on. So, a lot to work on there, but the fan base that we've got, I don't know if you saw the game when we played New Zealand. I've never seen so many flags in my life. It was absolutely ridiculous. I went up into the box just before kickoff, and we set up for the national anthem, and we stood up, and we're prepping to sing the national anthem. I'm just looking, and all of these flags are up, and there was 25,000 people there, and there would have been like 20,000 or more Samoans. Which is just unbelievable considering that it was in Auckland,
Yeah, that's right.
And the passion from those people around singing the national anthem and actually echoing the talk in the Civitao that Junior led and then the team led. I've never seen anything like that. So if that's just one taste of what it's like, looking forward to coaching lots more with the Samoan team as well.
Yeah, mate, it's been incredible to watch not only the response from the players, but the crowd as well, as you said. And what I'm loving is that these guys who have that Samoan heritage are actually going to play for Samoa. I think that is great. I think that's what we want to see. And as you said, targeting a few more next year, that's awesome. Keep it up, mate. Now, the next one we know a lot of footy players have nicknames, but have the boys given you a nickname, mate?
Mine's pretty simple, actually. So I'm BG.
There you go.
It's not complicated. It sort of started off as Benny for a while there, but it's BG's pretty simple. And finally at Penrith, we actually have Benny Harden as well, who's on our coaching staff. So they needed to simplify it so that we could differentiate a little bit easier. So when I went in there, that's BG, that's Benny. So Benny Harding gets Benny, and I get BG. So that just makes sure that it's nice and smooth in terms of the communication. Hey?
Yeah, definitely easier that way. Now, mate, everyone, I think, whether they're a player or a coach, has had a footy idol. Who is your footy idol? Who have you looked up to?
I looked up to a few actually. So I grew up, as I said, in the far north coast of New South Wales. So
Yeah.
a little country town. So country boy, loved watching the country team run around when they did the city and country. So probably my main one there to start off with was I loved Andrew Johns.
Yeah.
Never could play like him, but absolutely loved him.
Yeah.
Watched him all of the time. Obviously, very impressed with his skill set and his ability to read the game. And I watch a lot of his stuff even now in regards to picking up techniques and stuff like that for the players that I coach. And then probably the other one. So when I was growing up, I played mostly back row and centre, and so probably my favourite player around work ethic and effort was Gary Larson.
Oh, yes, very nice.
Absolutely loved Gary Larson. Loved the way that he went about his business and he carried himself on the field. And not only did he have great effort and really fought for his team, he was also like a really good guy. He was very fair. And that was the way that I was brought up to play, was play hard but fair, which is what he did. And not too long ago, back in I think it was 2016, I was coaching North Sydney Bears, which was pretty ironic because obviously Lasso played for the Bears, and he's very close with Greg Florimo. They're actually related. So Flo said to me, "Oh, we're going to bring Gary Larson in to talk to the team," and I was like a school kid. Like, it was so good. I actually got to sit there and listen to my idol talk to my team about what he did when he played and how he went about his business. And he gave us a bit of a rev up speech prior to the game, and it's just like I was just like a kid in a toy shop. Like, it was so good to be able to sort of look back when you're a kid and go, this was a guy that I looked up to, and now I'm sitting in the same room at the same level as him. It was very humbling, and really grateful to be able to have that opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. That is a great show. I haven't heard much about Gary Larson being an idol, so that's awesome. Really love to hear that. Mate, the next one we got, if you could change one rule in the NRL, what would it be?
Yeah, that's a hard one. There's so many rules at the moment that are really difficult. Like I've been pretty perplexed with the play the ball this year, and what they've done with the play the ball. They changed the play the ball rule, that it was basically the attacking player's responsibility to make sure that he stood up, whether the defender was all over him or not. In the past, if the defender was touching the attacker as he stood up, there was an opportunity to gain a penalty as an attacking player. And I think that I suppose the rule is sort of lent towards the defender this year. And so I'm not real sure about that one. That's sort of one that if it was me, I'd probably have a look at maybe tidying up. The NRL looked for a long time at trying to speed the game up and put the advantage with the attacking team. And from my point of view, that's probably taken it away a little bit, slowed the game down a little bit, and allowed defensive teams to spoil in the ruck a lot more than what they used to. So that's one. And the other one that's sort of like a little bit of an interesting one is obviously a lot of short kickoffs and mostly short dropouts now. Just this rule about you would have heard the wordings of the ball passing the precipice, like going past the line. Like, I'm just wondering whether there's something that they can do there to make that clearer, that particular one. Like, there's been some really dubious ones leading into the back end of the year, even in the Pacific Nations series. Like, so I don't know what the answer is. I'm not going to put out answers because that's above my pay grade. but it's a really interesting one because it's, as you know, like when you kick the ball in the goal, you used to get the ball back off the dropout no matter what. They kicked long, you got the ball, you had an opportunity to set up, and away you went. Now, obviously, it's I don't know the stats, but it's probably closer to a 50-50, maybe even less, whether the team that's dropping it out is getting the ball back. So I'm just wondering if there's something they can do to tidy that up where it's a little bit more black and white and a little bit less grey, because it's, a really grey area, that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I got to ask about this Penrith team, mate. You've got to tell us, what is it like being an assistant coach at a team that is just creating a dynasty? they've won 3 in a row now, and look, it could be 4, 5, 6. The way they are playing and the caliber of player that you guys have at the club, like what's that like?
Yeah, it's a pleasure to go to work every day.
Oh yeah,
It's that simple. Like
yeah,
so when I started out there, there's obviously some very good systems in place. What you see on the field with the NRL is just a small amount of what's going on out there. There's some great players coming through, right down from under 16s up through the 18s, 20s, and
right.
into the reserve grade. So there's a lot of guys that are there to develop into positions when people move on. So there's been this cycle put into place where if a guy is very successful and then he has to go somewhere to earn his money somewhere else, or gets an opportunity somewhere else, there's a new kid that can come in and take that spot, or rather than just a new kid, and probably that's where it's the best thing, there's 3 new kids to fight for that one spot.
Yeah, yeah,
Which creates this real competitive spirit amongst the group. The best thing about it all, though, is everyone's very humble, and there's a great manner about the boys out there. Like,
yeah.
there's all sorts of different perspective in the media. Sorry, spit it out. All sorts of perspective in the media about the guys and how they carry themselves. But they're a super humble group of people that want to come to work every day, and every single day they want to get better. And they're putting their best foot forward. The boys train every day. They train when they're injured. They play when they're injured. Like, they're doing absolutely everything that they can to make sure that their team is at their best every week. And you don't get that everywhere. Like, I've been around a lot. You don't get that level of commitment to the area, to the community, because it means something for the boys to play for the community. It's a big part of what they do. Like, they go out and obviously play for the team and their families, but what they're doing for the community out there and how they've grown that community. Like, you have a look at when you go around Penrith now, how many Penrith jerseys they are, or a kid has a shirt or a hat or a pair of shorts. I went to Raging Waters last year. I took my nephew there, and when we went there, I was just like, how many people had Penrith attire on? Like, swimming. Like, I was like, wow, it's phenomenal. And obviously, like, that comes with some great success, but the success is the byproduct of the processes that have been put in place there over a period of time. And so to walk in there and see those processes working effectively, it's very, very nice, that's for sure.
I can definitely vouch for that. I live in Penrith in the area, and it's a very tight knit community. Everyone gets around everyone. I'm a Rooster fan myself, but you can't deny what Penrith have done and what the culture has brought. So you're exactly right there, mate. It's just been incredible to watch. And as a footy fan, as a lover of the NRL, you can't deny Penrith. They are just flying, mate. But let's quickly touch on that grand final, the most recent one. Now, mate, come on, you must have been sweating at 24-8. At 24-8, you must have been. The sweat was probably pouring down you and Ivan. It looked like you kept you cool. But how were you? How were you feeling up there?
I think every game brings nerves. Hey,
yeah.
There's a few more nerves there. That's for sure. We sort of built our coaching on staying calm, which is something that sort of Ivan brings to the group, and I've been able to sort of learn and build on with him. And the main reason behind that is like, shouting and carrying on when things aren't going your way, it's not going to change anything.
That's right.
We're very big on returning to process, and we talk about our headspace, so keeping our headspace in a calm headspace, because when you're on the field, you're in a calm headspace. It puts you in a position where you actually make good decisions. If you're in a cranky, angry, elated headspace, you actually don't make good decisions. So in that scenario, as a coaching group, if we went into that angry headspace and that transfers onto our players, our decision-making ability in attack and defence on the field is not as effective. And that's a scientific thing. Like, it's got nothing to do with a feel or anything like that. It's got to do with the science of, the psychology of the mind. So we stay nice and calm. We may not be feeling that way inside, but we do our best to stay calm. And along with that comes with giving appropriate feedback on and adjustments in our game. Like we felt in the first half that we needed to make a few small adjustments in our game in the way that they were moving defensively, and the way that we were moving defensively. So we made a couple of small adjustments to our attacking game. We moved a little bit differently with our D, which worked for us and didn't work for us at the same time. And then, as I said earlier, we made the adjustment when Jerome went down, that Cogs would come on, and people would look at Cogs playing earlier in the year when Nathan was injured, and then he came back when Jerome was injured. And when Jerome was out, we had to make a few adjustments to our game so that Nat and Cogs could work in unison together. And it was such a blessing in disguise, like you imagine you get to the big game like that, and those two guys hadn't played together. So they'd just played for the last, I think it was 6 weeks while Jerome was injured. And they built a nice combination. And the great thing about Cogs is Cogs does his role and he runs his role, and he makes sure that the people that are around him on his part of the role execute what they're meant to do. And that allows Nat to go about doing his business. So, when Jerome's on there, Jerome's a different player to Cogs, and, Jerome's got his footwork and he moves nicely across the field and he puts pressure on individual defenders, which he did while he was on there. And then Cogs came on and he goes into a more of a first receiver role. And when he goes on, rather than beating defenders, he holds defenders. And in holding defenders creates space for Nat to do what he does. So, there's a lot of work put into that, not just them, but, the combinations with the back rowers on the edge, with Nat and Cogs as well, running their lines effectively to create the space that we needed to create. And then just a real resilience in the defence, like it would have been very easy at 24-8 to go, you know what, we're done here. But that's the character of the group, and that's the character that they've built, for a long period of time, that no matter what, we're in with a chance, and you know what, we're going to attack the game. And if something happens that doesn't go our way, we're still going to attack the game. And at the end of the game, that's what we did. We were chasing after the game, and we found a way to create the spaces that we were after. And, fatigue's a major enemy for anyone on the footy field. And, a few fatigued defenders in the opposition gave us an opportunity to do what we wanted to do.
Yeah, mate, it was incredible. You touched on Jack Cogger there. Now, massive loss next year. But one thing about Cogs that I noticed was the vision he had when he came on. Now, to come on and see things that Nat might not have seen being on the field, I thought was incredible. And I thought he did from you guys, but he didn't get the praises in the media that I think he deserved, because I thought Jack Cogger was really good when he came on. I just thought that mindset that he had, he just came on, he said, there's a couple of areas here I can see. And I think even Nathan spoke about that after the game. He mentioned how Jack had come on and noticed a few things, and then Nath ran with it. So I thought he was great.
He was brilliant. And to his credit, like, people don't see the little things that go on sort of on the side. So Jack sort of worked out that, if he's on the bench, the way he watches the game becomes really important to his role when he comes on. So him and I, obviously coaching the attack, him and I spoke at length about, well, when you're on the bench, you got to be careful that you're not a fan. You're actually watching the game strategically. Because if you watch the game strategically, you might see how some defenders are moving, or where there's some space, or what their markers are doing, which creates the opportunities for him when he comes onto the field. So, he was able to do that, like you say, and found some spaces to attack, and away he went, and the rest is history at the end of the day.
Yeah, mate. Look, I can tell you now, I watched it with my wife's family, who are massive Penrith fans, and it was just incredible to see the response of people in the community, and just after the game, it was just amazing. But let's jump into one of our last questions before we finish up. Now, I've got here, what are you looking forward to for 2024? But I want to change it to, can Penrith do it again? Is the 4-peat on the cards, mate? Come on. Tell the listeners what they want to hear. Is it coming?
I'm not going to tell them what they want to hear. I'm looking forward to getting in. We actually go back next week for a staff meeting. Then we're back into training the following week with our young guys and our new guys.
Yeah, great.
So first step is obviously get back in there with the new guys and see how they fit our system and
Yeah,
get them into the swing of what we do basically. And we learned a lot of lessons last year. Like you can't jump into the season until you know what you've got. And so we've had a number of changes again. So we've got young Snyder comes in, Dane
yes.
Laurie comes in,
Paul
Alamotti comes
Alamotti.
in.
Yep.
Yeah, like they're quality players,
Mm.
like very quality players that have been at clubs, played plenty of first grade. Obviously, Dane comes back to Penrith for his second stint.
Yeah.
Young Snyder been over in the Super League playing for Hull, played in some massive games for them over there, so brings
Yep.
some really good experience. And then young Paul Alamotti is like, he's a specimen, and he's in a position that we need. So he's a centre. He'll compete for the centre spot. He can play a bit of back row. So I'm really excited about going in and seeing those guys and how they go and how they fit amongst the other guys. And then they'll be competing with some local guys that have been working in our system for a while. So, your Mav guys and Jesse McLean's of the world, guys that have been there and want to push into the NRL. So what we get is we get this competitiveness and then they're competing, and then all of a sudden the more experienced guys start to come back and the competition lifts even more in and around what we're doing at training. So if we can build that competitiveness and carry it into the start of the year, you give yourself every chance to do what you want to do. And every team wants to go out and win those early games, And,
Of course.
us as a team, we learned some lessons last year in the World Club Challenge, and we probably didn't play the way that we wanted to. No excuses there, just we didn't play the way we wanted to. So lots of lessons from us as a staff and how we approach that. And there's our first chance to go out and do some work in that and show people what we're made of.
Yeah, absolutely. So 4 Pete's on the cards. And our last question before we finish off, I want you to give us an early prediction, a bottom 8 side from last year who you think will vastly improve in 2024.
Yeah, I think there might be a few. There's a couple of sides that have been sort of fighting to get into the 8 for a couple of years, and they've been building experience. And I'd say like a team like the Titans, for example, they've been building a lot of experience in their halves. They've got some great players in guys like Tino, and obviously got a new coach that's going to bring a different style. Like it's not that the coach is going to change how they play or anything like that. He's just going to bring a different style or a different approach, and that in itself can be stimulating for players. I'd like to see how they go. They've got some great players in that team, between Fafita and Tino, like 2 awesome players. And then they're building some great strength in their halves as well. And young Jaden Campbell, as a fullback or 5'8". So I think that they've got something there as a group. There's a number of teams there. Like you've got your Tigers who haven't been going well, and then Benji's going to take over and jump into the lead coaching role. So, you don't know what they're going to bring, but you would think that they're going to bring some optimism around that as a group. So it's a really hard one. I think the longer you're in it, what you learn is you've got to look at the first few rounds and go, okay, not that they win. They don't necessarily have to win in the first few rounds, but you've got to be looking like you've got processes in place and you're looking like a team that knows how to play together. And I think if you look like a team that knows how to play together early on, and you might win those games, you might not win those games, but it gives you an opportunity to build on that. And obviously, like for those teams that have been down the bottom, it's the defence. Like you can attack as good as you want, but the thing you got to nail down is how you defend in the NRL. If you can get your defence right early in the year, that's a really good indication that the pre-season's been good and you're ready to jump in and win some games. So. Most of those teams, I would say, are focusing on that, are focusing on getting their D right and their systems with their defence right as well. So it's going to be interesting, though, because, as you know, teams go up every year and teams come down. It's such a close competition this year. So to see where teams are after round 5, that'd be a pretty good indication of who's going to go on and challenge for the premiership. So, keep your eyes peeled on that, I would guess.
Definitely. It's only been a couple of days, but bring back the rugby league. We miss it already. Can't wait for 2024.
Yeah.
Well, mate, we just want to thank you for your time today. That's all we got time for tonight for our interview. I just want to thank you again for jumping on. For you, the listener, if you are tuning in, don't forget to follow, subscribe, rate the show on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or Amazon Music, or wherever else you may get your podcast from. Don't forget to check us out on our social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Threads, X, LinkedIn if you use it. Whatever you use for your social media, we're on all of them. Check us out. And again, thank you, Ben. And I'm Joey. That's Ben. Be good.
Thank you.